They say you never know the moment your life will change forever. Sometimes it's loud and crashing. Other times, it's the quiet click of a bedroom door. My name is Claire. For most of my adult life, I was the woman everyone could count on. A devoted wife, a dependable friend, and someone who always made the safe, correct choices. But desire doesn't care about the rules. And betrayal doesn't always arrive dressed as a stranger. It sometimes walks right out of your own hallway. My husband, Mark, and I had been married over 2 decades. We built a quiet life together. Steady, predictable, maybe even a little too predictable. After years of struggling with infertility, we opened our home to a foster teen named Jake. He came to us at 16, closed off and quiet, carrying years of instability in his eyes. I remember thinking, we'll give him a place to finally breathe. And for a while we did. Jake was a good kid, kind, respectful, always eager to help. He slowly began to open up, and eventually he felt like part of the family. But as time passed, something changed. He grew taller, more confident, more sure of himself. And then, he started watching me. Not with the innocent admiration of a grateful child, but with a kind of gaze that left my skin warm and my thoughts disturbed. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was imagining things. But every time he brushed past me in the kitchen or sat too close on the couch, I felt it, the pull. It wasn't just me. Mark noticed it too. He became distant, quiet. His smiles grew forced. He'd glance at Jake, then at me, his expression unreadable. I wish I had said something back then. But none of us wanted to disturb the fragile balance of our house. So we said nothing. And tension filled the silence between us. Then came the night that changed everything. Mark was working late. I had just finished dinner and was cleaning up when I decided to check on Jake. His door was slightly ajar. I knocked. No answer. I pushed it open, expecting to find him asleep, or maybe on his phone. But what I saw made me freeze. Jake sat on the bed, shirtless, lost in his own world, unaware I was even there. I should have turned away. I should have shut the door. But I didn't. I froze, heart thundering in my chest, shame and shock warring with something else, something darker. He turned, our eyes locked. And in that moment, everything in me split open. He scrambled to cover himself, face flushed. "Claire," he whispered. "I didn't know you were." I didn't let him finish. I should have left. Instead, I stepped into the room and gently closed the door behind me. He stared at me, caught somewhere between panic and longing. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. "You weren't supposed to see that." I didn't speak at first. Couldn't. My body wasn't listening to my brain. My heart pounded like I was 17 again, standing in front of some forbidden crush. "It's okay," I finally said, though I wasn't sure who I was saying it to, him or myself. Jake stood slowly, his eyes scanning my face. "I think about you," he admitted quietly. "More than I should." My throat tightened. "Jake, that's not something you can say to me." He shook his head. "But it's true. You're the only person who ever really saw me. The only one who made me feel like I mattered. Not just a project or some broken kid someone's trying to fix." My hand trembled as I reached for his face. I didn't plan it. Just happened. My fingers brushed his jaw, and he leaned into my touch like he'd been waiting years for it. He kissed me. And I didn't stop him. It wasn't innocent. It wasn't maternal. It was charged, dangerous, and filled with every emotion I'd buried for years. I broke away, breathless and dizzy. "This can't happen again," I whispered. But we both knew the truth. Something had already shifted. The line was crossed, and there was no pretending anymore. The days that followed were a storm of guilt and avoidance. I buried myself in chores. Jake barely spoke. Mark, he was still oblivious, but the air in the house felt different. He could sense something was off. But how could I explain something I couldn't even admit to myself? Then came the night Mark went away on a business trip. I was alone with Jake. Every step, every breath felt louder in the empty house. I poured myself a glass of wine and tried to focus on the flickering television, but it was pointless. Jake walked into the room like a question I didn't want to answer. "Claire," he said softly, "we need to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea." He stepped closer. "I love you," he confessed. "I've loved you for a long time. And I know it's messed up, but I can't keep pretending this doesn't mean something." I stood, heart racing, unsure if it was from panic or something else. "Jake, you're not my son by blood, but I took you in. Your family." He shook his head. "You didn't raise me. You saved me." "That's different." I didn't answer. Couldn't. The truth was, I felt something too. Something terrifying and powerful and deeply wrong. But also, something that made me feel alive again. Like I mattered. Like I was wanted in a way Mark hadn't made me feel in years. That night, it happened again. I won't describe it. But know this. I didn't feel like a mother. I felt like a woman who had been starving for affection, and suddenly had it. Afterward, Jake and I both knew we had stepped into something we couldn't undo. Secret life began. Silent glances, careful touches, hidden emotions behind every interaction. And Mark, he remained unaware. But I knew the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. And it didn't. Mark came home one evening, drained and pale. He sat at the kitchen table, voice low. "We need to talk. It's about Jake." My blood ran cold. But it wasn't about me and Jake. It was school. Jake had been skipping classes, getting into fights. They were worried. And suddenly I realized. He was falling apart. Just like me. Later that night I went to Jake's room. He looked at me with hollow eyes. "I can't keep this up," he said. "This is tearing me apart." "I know," I whispered. "I'm sorry." "You started this," he said, his voice rising. "You kissed me first. You made me think this was okay." He was right. I had failed him, not as a foster parent, not even as a woman, but as a human being. I crossed a line that should have never existed. Weeks passed, and everything unraveled. Mark eventually found out. The house emptied fast. Divorce papers filed, trust shattered, silence louder than any fight we ever had. Jake stopped speaking to me. He left school, picked up a job, and carried his anger like a second skin. One night, he said the words I still hear in my sleep. "You ruined my life. I don't try to defend myself anymore." He's right. What we had wasn't love. It was desperation meeting vulnerability. And now, all that remains are consequences. I found an old letter from Mark in the attic the other day, written right after we married. His words were full of dreams, promises, belief in us. I cried for hours. Not just because I lost him, but because I lost me. We are all capable of betrayal. Sometimes the betrayal is of others. Sometimes it's of ourselves.